From being the pantomime villain at the US Open to winning the entire event in 2021, Daniil Medvedev is a unique character, and the tennis world is fortunate to have him. Here are some of the most iconic moments of his career so far, starting with, of course, his famous reaction to a bizarre call at the Toronto Masters 2021. For the life of me, I can't believe what the umpire did here. Medvedev was playing Alexander Bublik, and that's a matchup where you know something weird will definitely happen. So it wasn't surprising when it finally happened. In the final set, Medvedev apologized at midpoint for nearly taking out the Kazakh star with a smash. Before Medvedev could hit the winning shot, which Bublik had given up on, the umpire called hindrance. You're not allowed to speak during a point. Yes, I get that. But even Bublik and Medvedev were left bemused. Bublik initially thought the call was made against him, not Daniil. Either way, it gave us one of the most iconic responses from Medvedev, who couldn't believe what was happening.
Yeah, it's amazing because the start of the year was not perfect in tennis. When you don't win tournaments, you're always doubting no matter what happens on practice. So
he stared at the umpire in disbelief and said, "This is gonna be on tennis TV, bro." Hilarious. But talking about reactions, how about no reaction? Oh, I love what Medvedev started to do since the 2019 US Open. He was painted as the biggest villain in the US, of course. His responses didn't help, but the fans love to hate on him, and he decided not to celebrate any win. This new no celebration approach wasn't something that Daniil was messing around with. He decided not to celebrate any of his wins, and he remained true to his word, not even celebrating his 2021 US Open title, or even the 3 more major 1,000 crowns he won since Cincinnati 2019. But the coolest thing about this is the fact that he's still been winning consistently, and has made this his signature move after every win. However, do you know where this celebration, or shall I say a lack of it, came from? Yep, the 2019 US Open. I already brought it up, but it started back when the crowd taunted him during his match against Feliciano Lopez. His relationship with the New York crowd from that point on was never the same. He even kept the controversy going in the post-match interview by telling the fans that they gave him energy with their boos. Daniil actually told them that if they weren't here and didn't boo him, he might not have won the match because he was very tired and had been cramping, but then decided to win because he didn't want the New York crowd to be happy. I love it. The relationship would get better as he made it to the final against Nadal, and credited the fans for supporting him in the 5th set. Still though, he's not a big fan of the US Open crowd, and he certainly isn't a fan of clay courts either. He may be a hard court specialist, Medvedev's words not mine, although I agree, but Daniil absolutely despises the clay and has been outspoken about his disdain for the surface. Just look at his results in his first 4 French Open appearances, as Medvedev didn't win a single match. He would reach the quarters in 2021, but he's just not a fan of the clay court swing, and has been often caught on the mic saying that "I don't want to play here on this surface." But Medvedev's antics against Aslan Karatsev were amazing in Rome back in 2021. He was having a tough time during the clay swing, and at one point he couldn't find his feet, literally and figuratively. But it was hilarious to see compatriot Andrei Rublev having a laugh at his fellow Russian star's expense. Talking about surfaces though, Daniil loves the one in Miami, so much so that he actually fought through a severe attack of cramps to win the match. As all of you would know, tennis does not allow for medical timeouts for cramps. This is why Medvedev's match against Alexei Poprin during the 2021 Miami Open gave us one of the most iconic moments of his career. He had already squandered 3 match points in the 2nd set and had been cramping up big time. In some instances, he'd even hobble between points as he fought to serve out the match. In fact, at one change of ends, Medvedev kept pacing back and forth to lessen the pain and didn't sit down. And eventually it worked because he closed out the set at 6-4, describing the victory as one of the sweetest of his career. On the topic of sweet wins though, Daniil had quite a few of them during his magnificent run in Nitto ATP Finals in 2020. Yeah, his run in London at the ATP Finals was honestly the best I've seen Medvedev play. He entered the tournament as the 4th-ranked player, behind Dominic Thiem, the US Open champion, and Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal take up the top 2 spots. He defeated Novak Djokovic in straight sets, 6-3, 6-3, before getting a win over Zverev and Schwartzman to make it to the last 4. There, he took on Rafa, who took the first set, but Medvedev came from behind to win a tense tiebreak in the second, and wrapped up the third to set up an ATP Finals final meeting with Dominic Thiem. Don't forget, Thiem was fresh off a US Open win, and he took the first set off Medvedev as well, only for the Russian to stand strong in another tense second set tiebreak, before winning the entire event in the third set.
It's a clay court on hard court, so that's a good result for me. A lot of points, a lot of things to see in the season.
He became the only player to defeat the top 3 ranked players on his way to the ATP Finals title. But it's not always the high-flying moments for Daniil which are iconic, as was the case with his camera collision in Cincinnati in 2021. Don't get me wrong, he was fortunate to walk away without an injury, but it was an iconic Medvedev moment. Playing in the semi-final of the Cincinnati Masters, Medvedev returned the serve from very deep in the court. Unfortunately, the return was so deep that he collided with the cameras, which were actually placed at the back, right in front of the stands, rather than their usual placement behind barriers. Medvedev was clearly flustered, and even kicked one of the cameras in the lens out of frustration, before complaining to the umpire that he could have broken his hand. Tough luck for Daniil, because he didn't recover from the collision, losing the game to Rublev in 3. And I can't possibly overlook another moment, which is very iconic and also one of the earliest moments of Daniil's career, when he took on Stefano Tsitsipas for the first time in Miami. Both players were outside the top 50 back then, and Medvedev ran out a 2-6, 6-4, 6-2 winner. But it was a match that defined a rivalry that has already grown massively. Daniil took a lengthy toilet break right after Steph had taken on.
I don't know yet, because the thing is that I twisted it, let's say, pretty bad. The moment I twisted it, I thought it's going to be just fine and I'm gonna stand up. Then the pain started raising.
While the Russian didn't like how Tsitsipas hadn't apologized for winning a point that hit the net cord. But at the end of the match, both players had a heated exchange, with Medvedev asking Tsitsipas to shut the f up and asked him if he thinks he's a good kid. However, despite this moment being truly iconic, it doesn't come close to the biggest moment of Daniil's career, the day he became a Grand Slam champion in New York, in front of the same crowd which had been booing him for so long. But the best part of that win was the way he celebrated, dropping to the floor and flopping like a fish, with his mouth agape. Not to mention, it was an impressively consistent performance, as Medvedev basically stopped Djokovic from winning all 4 slams in 2021. That's all I had on the most iconic moments of Daniil Medvedev's career. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.